Detroit Lions football is back. I'm Dannie Rogers, and this is Inside the Pride presented by Whisker, maker of the litter robot. After a historic season that ended in the NFC Championship game, Detroit is back on the practice field as the 2024 training camp season kicks off.
Let's go. Yeah. I can't quit.
I am so excited to be joined by running backs coach Scottie Montgomery this weekend. Day one of training camp, head coach Dan Campbell tells everyone this team functions off its work ethic, not its reputation. What does it take to get everyone rowing in the same direction when it comes to that?
Man, old school mentality, new school, and modern day principles. And what we've been able to do with Coach Campbell, offensively and defensively, really is that we work like it's 1978 to 1984 on the football field. Like, it was just the toughest times to be able to work through. Those guys work like that, but we do have, of course, a schematical advantage in some certain situations because of our coordinators, but because of what our players can handle in the FBI. So the one thing that we say is that, every day we're gonna try to take, full advantage of our opportunity. But what we've seen is our guys from spring to now, they're practicing and playing and preparing so hard. We feel like we're in a really good spot right now.
How quickly can you tell when a player isn't going to fit here?
One of the things that shows up, kind of quickly is that they don't understand the speed in which we practice or the physicality in which we practice with. Now, the best thing about that is that you can see it quickly the second time they hit the field or their second rep or not. And we really are not policing that now anymore as coaches. We don't have to. The players, the Taylor Deckers of the world, right, the Franks of the world, and St. Brown. If someone is below the line, if they're not finishing down the field or finishing with our offensive lineman, it's going to really show up. So, you see that happen a couple of times, and you see the players start to look around at each other. You can kind of get a good feel for what works and what doesn't.
Two players that I know are holding everyone accountable. They're right in your room. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, 23 rushing touchdowns combined between that duo last year. They said they have a duo goal going into this season. They won't tell us what it is.
Yep.
What should they be chasing this season?
We're always going to be chasing greatness, but I think the biggest thing that we're trying to make sure that we do is that David needs to outperform Ja when Ja is playing his best, and Ja needs to try to outperform David when he's playing his best. That is the only thing that we can chase that'll bring the entirety of our team up.
Ja has already mentioned this training camp that he did not hit his 1,000-yard rushing mark last season in the regular season. He missed it by 55 yards. So the fact that he's already bringing that up, what does that speak to his mindset?
So his mindset now is he has to get this 1,000 yards before we leave camp. You don't get 1,000 yards in the season. You really don't even get 500 yards in the season. What you do in camp, how you prepare, how you play, how you get your body ready, physical conditioning precedes anything else. Determines what you do in the season and what your body can take. So I think that's what we understand about him, and him understanding those goals. They don't happen in the 17-week season. They happen right now.
David had his best career season last year, but he said he's taking this season even more personal based on what this team can accomplish. How do you make sure you're helping to foster taking it personal in the running back room?
You know what? One of the things that we do is we're very, very transparent and honest in the way that we coach them and we teach them. You have to build a relationship first. So the way that we make sure that that happens is that I'm brutally honest about what I see on tape. I treat, Pro Bowlers, all pro players, just like I would treat a developmental player. And that comes from our top, right? That comes down from, Dan and Ben. It doesn't matter who makes the mistake. It's going to get called out. It's going to get, put in front of everybody. If you don't like it, I'm not criticizing you. I'm criticizing your football. So get your football right, and then everything else will take care of itself. So that kind of fosters the mentality of, I better take another step.
Power on that foot, power. All right, Jeff, come on. Let's go, John. Punch. There you go. Go. That's what it should feel like. Go. Squeezing those elbows. Good. Go.
Jahmyr says the biggest difference for you, year two in Detroit, is you're a little bit more amped in the running back room. Peel back the curtain. What does that look like for us?
I'm tired of waiting. I'm taking it personal. right? We have goals that have to be set. Last year, we did a good job, I think, of just teaching and understanding everything that goes to it. You know, this year, we're teaching again at the same level, but now we're adding in the why. And now when they know the why, they're responding to the why, and I need them to respond. When that response isn't coming as quickly as I want it or anybody else wants it, maybe David wants a little bit faster for one of the guys, I'm going to make sure it's known that it's not coming in the detail and the timing that we want. So yes, I do have a little bit more of a fire. I'm taking it personal. It's really personal for me. The city of Detroit means a lot to me and my family, but the coaches in this building mean a lot to me. The players in this building mean a lot to me. I built a lot of relationships in 365 days, and I plan on making sure that, you know, I hold up my part, trying to get them better, and also being accountable to our coaching staff.
After getting their first taste of the NFL during rookie minicamp this past spring, Detroit's newest draft class has taken the field for training camp. I checked in with the rookies to see how they're adjusting to their new life in the pros. Take a look. What is your mentality when it comes to making this Detroit Lions 53-man roster?
Yeah, it's, you know, I told myself, like, you know, I put it in my head, you're going to make it. You know, there's no if you're going to, if there's no if, but, you know, I told myself I am going to make it. You know, and all I got to do is just, you know, put my best work on forth, you know, on the field, you know, control what I can control, and that's my effort and my intensity. So if I can do that, then, you know, I feel like I will be on the 53, so yeah.
They drafted me for a reason, and I feel like it's my obligation to go out there, you know, be the missing piece of the secondary, and I just go out there, and I don't want to disappoint my teammates. So my main thing is if I give up a catch, which is expected, give up a touchdown, it could be expected, but I don't look at it like as I'm disappointing myself, but I'm letting my teammates down.
Always be yourself, because no matter what, at the end of the day, you gotta look yourself in the mirror, and a lot of people struggle with that, or, you know, like we got a good mental health team. Dr. G, I talked to her just to get a relationship with her, because there's gonna be some moments in camp or some moments you might doubt yourself and need a person to talk to, so they always got that outlook here, or that outlet, so I'm just gonna remain myself, do what I can do, and control what I can control, and the rest of it take care of itself.
Just to go out there and be the best that I can be, not to be a liability, but an asset to the team, and to just, I don't know, put everything out there, just like Pro Day. Just go out there and give my best effort every day. That's it.
Just come in and be a sponge, learn everything I can from the veterans and the guys that's been here and done it before. Got a lot of great veterans in the room. Malik McNeil, DJ Reader, just guys that have done it at the highest level. So just follow their lead and, you know, be able to add my flair to it and dominate.
What's been the most difficult part about acclimating to the NFL so far?
Playbook's a lot harder. There's a lot more plays. There's a lot more things you have to learn. And then in college stuff was simple, but a little bit more advanced than high school. Now everything's advanced.
The small details. Yeah, alignment, assignment, and, you know, hitting your landmarks and things like that, being on your landmarks. Just having confidence. Yeah, I'll say that would be it. But after you get the playbook down, you start playing like yourself, then it'll start to come.
Obviously, just the speed of the game. You know, just going from high school to college, it was a different speed, college to the NFL. But, you know, I'm a guy that can adjust pretty well, so I think I'll be fine.
How has your head coach, Dan Campbell, lived up to your expectations so far?
Yeah, you know, he's a great coach. There's no other head coach out there I want to play for. You know, he's old school. You know, he knows how, you know, he knows where to win. He's a great guy. And the one thing I like about, you know, him and the coaching staff is they all have a plan for me. So, you know, they knew what the expectations was when I come in. They knew there was going to be a bit of a learning curve. They knew there was going to be a bit of adaptation, and they're willing to work with that, which I love a lot. And, you know, I appreciate them a lot for that.
Definitely, he's a great guy. You know, you could tell he's played the game. He understands.
Oh yeah, he's the dude. Everybody talked about him. He's a player's coach. He loves football, and he will never put us in harm's way with how he coaches. He's very genuine.
Welcome back to Inside the Pride. I'm now joined by Detroit Lions senior writer Tim Twentyman during one of, if not the most anticipated training camps ever. What has the build-up been like? What have people been telling you, Tim, about just their excitement around the team?
Super Bowl. like just having those kind of expectations hasn't always been around these parts, and to go into a season knowing that you're one of the favorites to represent the NFC in the championship game, that you're talking about back-to-back NFC North titles, that you're talking about playing in the team's, first Super Bowl. Like, those things are something that's been a little foreign. I think that's really the excitement here. And then you talk about the additions and some of the young players and some of the lists that came off in the offseason, right? The top 25 players under 25, you get 5 Lions on that. So it's not just what they've done in terms of adding pieces and the veteran guys, but you look at the core of this team. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sewell, Gibbs, Aiden Hutchinson. All those guys are under 25 years old, so it's not like you're in this short window. This could be a good team for a long time, and I think people are starting to realize that, and they're hopping on board.
It's amazing. 3 years ago, we were talking about how young this Detroit Lions team was, and that was kind of an excuse. And now you look at it,
and that's paid off.
It's the core.
Now that's the core of your football team. You just paid 2 guys in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell this offseason. They're going to be part of your team for the long run, and you've just got all this exciting talent. Like, Aiden's going to be next, and obviously with what Sam Laporta did last year and what Jahmyr Gibbs did, and the excitement there. Jamison Williams is hopefully coming into his own. So there's just a ton of excitement with everything, and then you couple that with the ads with Carlton Davis, DJ Reader, right? Veteran guys, proven guys that have done it in this league. This is by far the best roster that they have had in my 16 years covering the team.
This past offseason, coordinator stayed intact. The core stayed intact, but there were a few off-season signings, like you just mentioned, Tim, some new faces to the Detroit Lions. So who are you most excited to see from this past off-season signings to put some pads on here in training camp?
DJ Reader is a top 10 guy by Pro Football Focus against the run. Ali McNeil was too. So now you've got 2 guys in the middle that ranked in the top 10 against the run. Detroit was already a really good run defense last year, but now you can push that pocket, right? How many times, Danny, were we watching games last year where Hutch was a step away, where he got a hand on a shoulder pad, right? Where he was just so close, still had 11.5 sacks. But to me, I think with those guys pushing the pocket and Marcus pushing the pocket on the other side, I think that's going to push everything toward Hutch. I think that's going to give him a lot more opportunities. I would not be surprised at all if we're talking about Aiden Hutchinson right there among the NFL sack leaders next year because of what they've done around him along the defensive line. And I think that translate, down the line of the defense too. The linebackers return, they're veteran guys, they know Aaron Glenn's system, but then those cornerbacks, right? And that defensive back room. Detroit was 27th against the pass last year. Well, you speed up the quarterback's clock. That's going to help those guys on the back end too. And so I just think what they've done up front defensively is going to be the catalyst for a lot of improvements really on all 3 levels of that defense.
All right, so you're excited to see DJ Reader up front. I think I'm just excited to see the entire secondary.
You got to pick one. Who you got? You got one? You going to single out one?
I like the Carlton Davis one that you mentioned a little bit earlier, too. He needs to lead that secondary with Terrion Arnold coming into his own and so many new faces. And then, of course, maybe Emmanuel Mosley sometime during the season will come back. So there's just so many moving parts, new faces to the secondary.
That's a big one,
That's
too.
what I'm excited to see.
I think a lot of people forget that Emmanuel Mosley started on the outside for San Francisco's defense in 2022. Yeah. That was a really good defense. That was one of the best defenses in the league, and he was a starter out there. So now you get him to throw into the mat. I'm also really excited to see how Ennis Rakestraw fits into the mix there and how he comes along, too. That whole secondary, that whole cornerback room is going to be much improved.
I know we just talked a lot about the defense. We'll talk more about that offense coming up here in this training camp. We're taking a break inside the Pride. We'll be right back after this. Tim, we talked a lot about offseason signings, the bulk of those coming on the defensive side of the ball, which means there is new competition in Aaron Glenn's room. So what position battle is going to be the most intriguing this training camp?
Well, number one's the cornerback spot. We talked about it with Carlton Davis and Terrion Arnold. And Terrion Arnold was opposite Carlton Davis in OTAs and minicamp when the two were on the field together. So I think that's how training camp will start. But we talked about Emmanuel Mosley in the mix. Where do Amik Robinson and Rakestraw fit in? And I thought it was really interesting too that they talked about Brian Branch and kind of increasing his roles, expanding his roles a little bit. They really wanted him just to focus on that nickel spot as a rookie, but I think they're going to add to his duties and include some safety. What will that look like? That to me is a really interesting one. And then second is, we talked about the starters along the defensive line and how that's a really solid four. but who's going to fit into the mix in the rotation, right? You know, you obviously have, you know, James Houston and Josh Pascal and Kaminsky on the outside, and then inside, you know, Mekhi Wingo, and, you know, Josh can also fit in there too. Cam Smith, like some of these guys, I think it's going to be really interesting to see. Levi Onwuzurike, he's entering a contract year.
Yeah.
I think just how that shakes up with the reserves up front, and then obviously the cornerback battle will be really fun to watch.
Ooh, I love it all.
There's a lot going on.
I know there's a ton of great things going on. Let's talk a little bit about this offense. Quarterback Jared Goff returns with his offensive linemen. Of course, Jonah Jackson has shipped off to the West Coast, but then you bring in Kevin Zeitler to replace him this past offseason.
Just a Pro Bowler from Baltimore.
Why not? Who just had his first Pro Bowl season last year, which is crazy to think, but he's eyeing some more playoff wins, Zeitler is. So what can Goff, that offensive line, how can they grow this season together?
Well, Jared's in such a great spot. Ben Johnson returning was so huge for Jared. They built this offense together. I think they can sit in a room and complete their own sentences when they talk football, because
so
that's
romantic.
Just how on the same page they are. And he's taken complete ownership of this offense. And look, when you play behind an offensive line like that, not only do you have depth there, but you have extreme depth. I mean, Frank Ragnow is the best center in the game. Penei Sewell is the best right tackle, might be the best tackle in the game. I mean, he's so good you scheme to your right tackle, which is unheard of on some teams, but he's just that good, that athletic, you can do that many things, and they're the catalyst for everything. I mean, it's very rare, Danny, that you have an offense that is top 5 in the league in passing and top 5 in rushing. You don't do that without an elite offensive line, a versatile offensive line. And then you've got a quarterback who is very comfortable in a system, who they protect, who gets the ball out on time, who's very accurate. And then you've got all the fun toys to play with on the outside. So that's what makes this offense, I think, so tough to defend. You look at some of the offseason kind of behind the scenes things, and they were talking to some other teams and, you know, defensive coordinators and stuff, and the questions were asked, you know, who's the toughest offense to go against? And I think it was the Giants defensive coordinator. I forget what the show was, but he was like, Ben Johnson, the Lions.
I love it.
It's so rare to do everything well. And that's what they do. Run the football? Sure, we could run it. We'll put 300 yards up on you. Throw it? Yeah, Jared will throw for 300 yards if that's what we need to do. And that's the thing. I mean, defenses are so good in this league about taking maybe what you do best or trying to take away what you do best away. If you can just counter with the other thing and you do it just as well, that's what makes it so tough to defend against Detroit. And then if you get guys like Jamison Williams step up and some of the other elements, Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta going into year 2, now that comfort level's there, the game has slowed down. Look what they did as rookies. It's just, if you love offensive football, it is going to be really fun to watch this team, because this offensive line, Jared Goff, and all those weapons, I think are primed for a really, really huge season.
And to put a bow on it, having that elite and explosive an offense has to bring the secondary along quickly, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great competition. You know, some of the best things about training camp, and it's funny, you do the individual portions and then you do some of the competitive portions, and you see all the coaches sometimes kind of, or all the scouts and you know, Brad and his guys kind of meander down to the offense and defensive line when they do the one-on-one pass rush deals against each other. But when those cornerbacks and wide receivers do that too, it's speed on speed, best on best, and that's going to be fun in the training camp when you watch some of those competitions. And then obviously in the team drills, that's the part I love about training camp, is just some of the individual battles that you see develop over day in and day out and day in and day out, and that's the fun part about it.
I love it. I love the sound of everything. A big thank you to Tim for joining us here on Inside the Pride. We're almost wrapped up with tonight's show. We're coming back, and I'll make sure I recap all the training camp dates for those heading to Allen Park this training camp season. We'll be right back. The Detroit Lions are opening up 9 practices to the fans who were lucky enough to snag some training camp tickets. Yes, the tickets are already sold out. For the fans who are coming here to Allen Park, there will be food trucks, giveaways, activities for the family. My personal favorite part, Lions legends interacting with fans. And I'll be there too, so make sure you stop and say hello. Detroit will be here at training camp before they hit the road for 2 preseason games. First at the New York Giants and then the Kansas City Chiefs, before Detroit is back home for preseason game number 3 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Inside the Pride presented by Whisker. We'll see you next time.